SnapTech IT is the expert go-to resource for all things CMMC, education, certification, preparation, and ongoing managed IT. Manage, secure, grow. Check it out at snaptechit.com.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to 123 CMMC. My name is Dana Mantilia, and I will be your guest. And I'll be your host. The guest today is going to be Shawn Brown of SnapTech IT. Hello, Shawn. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, if you want to change roles, we can do that. You can be the guest and I'll be the host.
No, I like just asking the questions. We have such a riveting topic today that we are going to be talking about, which is the POA&M. So please, for the audience, explain to those who don't know what that is. What is that?
First, I'd say it's probably one of the worst acronyms I've ever seen, right? Who comes up with this stuff? But POA&M is basically a plan of action and milestones. So it's a tool that we use in IT security and compliance, but specifically, we're talking about CMMC. So it's a tool you can use to kind of create this kind of plan of actions that have these milestones, and we'll kind of get into a little bit about what kind of data you want to put into this plan of action document.
Mm-hmm. A little bit of a roadmap, right?
Yeah, so that's exactly what it is. I mean, think of it as just kind of a useful tool that you're using, and it's nothing special. I mean, I've seen them done in Excel, spreadsheets, and now there's some software that you can use to kind of create these kind of living documents that you're going to kind of work out of as you kind of go through this process a little bit. So,
all right. So what are the benefits of having one of these?
Yeah. So good question. So first, how you're going to get to this kind of document and some of this information is kind of going through a gap analysis. So some of the benefits are, hey, let's get a gap analysis done, or kind of an early assessment done to kind of figure out where we might have deficiencies or vulnerabilities or risk inside the organization. And then we're going to use this POA&M document, or this plan of action and milestones, to create a list of things that we need to get, adjusted, changed, corrected, fixed inside the environment. So it's a great tool that companies can use to kind of hold themselves accountable. Like I said, it's kind of a living document that you'll do. It's a great way to kind of document some risk in the environment as well. We'll get into some of the details, but cost, you put some cost information in there, who's kind of responsible for different things. So it's a great accountability tool that you can use in your organization.
Well, I agree with you 100%. One thing that makes me a little bit nervous with CMMC is that, as before with NIST 800-171, you could have one, but with CMMC, you can't have one. I don't know how they're going to work around that, not work around it. Just, it's the POA&M is going to help you, like, oh, this is stuff we still need to do, right? Moving forward as we're getting more and more cyber secure and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know how they're going to deal with this, but
right.
That's what we're talking about right now. So, okay. Anyway, back on track here. So what are the key points to keep in mind when you are creating POA&M?
Yeah. So I'd say the first thing is, this is not a document that you use just to check a box that you've got one. Like I said, this is a living document that you really need to be engaged with as a good kind of planning tool to track, where you've got those deficiencies or where you have those risks. And it's just a great tool to use to, kind of document all that information and to work through the process. We talk to people all the time about CMMC, and it's not necessarily a destination. It's really a journey. And this is a tool to kind of help guide you down that path, kind of from where you're at to kind of whatever level you're trying to reach. And so this is that kind of roadmap to help get you from point A to point B.
Yeah, which is going to be very key, especially for some people who maybe might have not been doing exactly what they need to do. And so let's get it all out there on the POA&M, and then start attacking things.
The other thing that I would say about that too is this is not just a technology or an IT department tool. This is something that you need to think bigger than that. You need to think the entire organization needs to leverage this. You also need to make sure that you've got kind of executive buy-in and that they're aware of kind of what's going on as well. So don't isolate, this, or don't think about this as just an isolated tool just in the IT department for, us tech nerds. This is more of an organizational kind of risk document that the entire organization needs to use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially for like the security and awareness training for the general non-technical employees. And
yeah, great example. Yep.
Yeah, like the physical log, and visitor log when for who's physically in the building kind of thing. If you don't have one of those, that's got to go on there, that kind of thing too. So it does involve everybody.
Employee background checks. There's tons of things that touch, HR and finance and things like that all relate and that could be documented and put on this POA&M tool.
Mm-hmm. All right, so where are we here? So we're going here. So, okay, what specific types of information should be in an effective POA&M?
Yep. So there's a lot of different templates that you'll see and that you can get online. Pretty easy to go find some. For us, we've got a specific template that we use, and there's definitely some pertinent information that needs to be on there. So, column number one, if we're thinking columns, if you're thinking kind of an Excel spreadsheet, because I think that's pretty easy to kind of picture. Column number one, we create just an ID, some kind of identifier that makes it easy to be able to reference. The second column, we like to kind of reference the security control that this vulnerability or risk may be associated to. So think column two, kind of a security control. Column three, we have as a weakness. So what's the kind of the issue that, or the vulnerability or the risk that we've identified. The next column is our description. So how is this, kind of identified? Give me a little bit more detail on this specific kind of risk or vulnerability that we're adding into the POA&M. The next column over is a severity level. So think kind of high, medium, low, or, whatever severity levels you like to use. But think of a severity level just so that we can kind of understand the impact and risk associated with this specific line item. Cost is the next column. And so whether that be a budgetary dollar amount to correct this issue, or whether maybe it's more of a resource, an internal resource allocation or some kind of cost. It's good just to kind of understand that from a budgeting and planning standpoint. Then we want to know who is the point of contact, or who's responsible for it, or is this related to a specific department? So I like to see a single person responsible, because when multiple people are responsible, nobody is responsible. So we like to put a single point of contact on there as the responsible person. The next column over is our planned start date. So when do we plan on starting to remediate this? What's our planned finish date is the next column. And then the big section is this milestone. And the milestone is where you're going to document and provide your steps, or your big steps to remediate this project or remediate this vulnerability. So inside there, think about, you could also create kind of interim steps, if you will, inside this, where there might be additional dates. Like, for example, if to use your security awareness training example that you referenced earlier, we may have dates, hey, we're going to start this on a certain date. We should be finished with this project on a certain date. And inside of our milestone section, we can put, hey, on, whatever date, October 1st, we want to be able to do this piece. And on October 10th, we're going to do this other main piece of the milestone. So we're going to document the major steps inside that milestone. The next column over is the actual start date. So how well did we plan, and how well did we actually start it? Our actual completion date. And then the last kind of column is the status. Is this an ongoing thing, or have we completed it? So that's kind of the columns and the document, the information that we like to document when we're doing this kind of POA&M document.
That's really good. That's got a lot of awesome information in there. And I also like the idea about putting how much the anticipated budget is going to be required for this. So as you're making this list, you can kind of keep in mind, this is adding up. So I better, make sure I keep looking at the bottom to what the total is. So that was really good. And then this kind of ties into our next question about the milestones. And you mentioned it a little bit in there about how you can kind of break them down. Is there anything else you want to say about how milestones are used?
Yeah, I mean, if you got a bigger task, you may end up breaking this milestones into multiple kind of line items if we're kind of going back and visually thinking about that Excel spreadsheet. So it depends on how you want to, again, how big it is and how big of a project or thing that we're solving is. You might want to break it into multiple line items in different phases. But for the most part, a majority of them will be on a single line item, and then you'll just document multiple kind of steps inside or multiple milestones inside of a specific line item. If you've got an automated tool to kind of help you do this, tickets always work really well. So if you've got some kind of online software where you can document, kind of in a project management software and then kind of reference that. I've seen that done as well as a way to kind of track those milestones.
And breaking it down into steps or, baby milestones or whatever we're going to call it, that kind of helps people wrap their head around it because it's, it's like, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? Not that any of us would ever want to eat an elephant, but, when it's such a big task like that, it's okay, I can check the box. I got a little bit of it done. So that's good.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Well, so do you have any other tips for us before we go on a lovely POA&M?
Yeah, I'll just, remember when it relates to CMMC, as you achieve different levels, these things are passes or fails. And so creating good documentation on this POA&M document will set you up for success. As you do those gap analysis and create this kind of plan and action and milestone, I would say make this thing, it's not a box that you're going to check. The more quality information you can put into that and the more planning you can put into that, as you work with RPOs or as you work with, as going through your audit, they're going to want to see this. They're going to want to see the level of detail and, how serious you took doing this kind of plan of action and milestone document. So that's important. The other kind of tip that I would say is when you complete something, don't delete it out or archive it out. Keep this as a living working document so that you can show good evidence of kind of, hey, I went through my gap analysis. I understood where I was. We put together this plan and we're executing on our plan. So don't delete those line items out. Keep them in the document because you want to be able to show that evidence and that track record of kind of where you've been and where you're going.
Yeah, that's a great point about the evidence. It's also a good way to, help yourself feel better about, wow, look at how much we've gotten done.
That's exactly right. There's definitely some, mental games and accomplishments that feel good whenever you can change one of those statuses from ongoing to completed. So no doubt.
All right. Well, thank you very, very much for your time, Shawn. I appreciate that very, very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to be here. Good seeing you again.
All right. Well, thank you for everybody for listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode of 123 CMMC, and take care in the meantime. Bye-bye.
SnapTech IT is the expert go-to resource for all things CMMC, education, certification, preparation, and ongoing managed IT. Manage, secure, grow. Check it out at snaptechit.com.